Just a second, it's almost there. It's thinking very hard about streaming. Sorry, it's just giving me this page where I can't actually tell if it's streaming or not. Let me see if
I'm
I
just
can.
looking online to see if it is. I'm not sure if Neil or
on my screen at the top left, it says recording live YouTube. So I don't know if that's everyone else seeing that.
It has now directed me to YouTube. It's just much slower than it usually is. I think I'm comfortable that it's streaming because we got a notification that we're live on YouTube. So we are recording and we're live. I think we are set to go.
It says recording live YouTube. So
perfect. It is live. All right. I feel comfortable moving forward. I'm going to call our special council meeting for October 30th, 2023 to order. And today we just have for adoption tax exemption bylaw 2024, bylaw number 3091.
Mayor, you skipped the territorial acknowledgement.
My apologies on that. Yes, I would like to just acknowledge, I believe most of us, if not all of us, are meeting on the unceded territory of the Comox First Nation and the traditional keepers of our land. Thank you for that reminder.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have just one agenda item.
Yep.
Are we waiting for someone to move it or
move the recommended action?
Okay, it's been moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded. Are there any questions or comments?
My hand's up, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I said Councillor Hillian, so I'm not sure if you can hear me or...
Your sound is going in and out, which makes it a bit awkward. I didn't hear it, sorry, but I will go ahead. Thank you, Mayor. So, you know, it's apparent that that this is a very controversial issue in the community. I don't think I've ever seen as many letters on a particular issue received in such a short period of time. And it does give me concern that that there is this division and that many people are distressed by the action that's been taken. But I know that council is determined to move ahead with this. I would like to just hearken back to something that the mayor suggested at our last meeting, and that was that he would be willing to sit down with Aaron House Church and speak to their leadership about the situation that we're in. I also wonder whether there is an opportunity to create the dialogue that many people who wrote to us are calling for. The motion that was proposed by Councillor Cole Hamilton gives Aaron House a way back to regain their tax exemption, potentially, before it costs them anything. And so it strikes me that we would actually be doing a service to the community if we provided the opportunity for meaningful dialogue. And I would see that dialogue potentially bringing Pride Comox Valley to the table along with the leadership of Aaron House. and to provide an opportunity for discussion and hopefully a better level of understanding on the part of all, so that this action might actually heal some wounds in the community rather than solidify further division. So that's what I'd like to suggest, that if we move forward with this action today, that we also support that type of an engagement moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Hillian. I appreciate your comments, and yeah, I fully support that idea. Thank you very much, Councillor Frisch.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Let me just lower my hand while I speak. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that I am having some serious second thoughts about supporting this motion. As I mentioned last time, I thought it was a bit quick, and I'd like to suggest that maybe we should be more cautious as a council and use due process more carefully when we're wading into these sorts of subjects. I would actually like to see some sort of staff report on what we're contemplating. I think the information that we're using to make this decision is limited, and it's not necessarily coming from trusted sources. As a council person, that's how I feel. And so, it seems like it's a little hard to undo this, what we're sitting at right now, because we have a limit. We have to get this finalized, this permissive tax exemption done by tomorrow. So that's a problem. And it kind of outlines the bigger problem with making a change like this at the last minute without having time to think about it, get public input, or even rely on a policy for that matter, which I suggest would take some time to formulate. It would make me more comfortable if we were going to start changing our permissive tax exemption policy and who gets those exemptions. If we took the time to think about it and we talked to the community and we found out what was important when we're talking about tax exemptions. So on that basis, I won't be supporting this today, and I'm sorry that we're in this position right now. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Couldn't hear you again, Mr. Mayor.
Can't hear you.
Is that any? Can you hear me now? Okay, Councillor McCollum.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. No differently than when we discussed this issue previously. It's a tough topic, and yeah, I certainly understand where some of the sentiments are coming from, with a lot of the communication that we've had around, feeling like council is, isolating this group or, passing judgment on the activities that they do that are contributing to the community. We've certainly heard a lot of the good things that they've done, and for many individuals who are involved with Aaron House Ministry. But I did want to clarify just a couple of themes that I saw coming through with the emails. And one of which is the assertion that we're removing a church exempt property tax exemption. And just to clarify for the public, what we have removed is a permissive tax exemption that's associated with the nonprofit bylaw. So it's not setting a precedent against religious organizations who are under the Church Act. It is specific to the nonprofit. And I do agree with the assertion that we've been left to make a decision on this in a very short amount of time, and the process is far from ideal. But we have kind of tried our best to come up with an alternative that allows for us to think a little more deeply as a council about our policy, and then circle back and look at this situation and and the merits of the Aaron House nonprofit tax exemption. And we do have a means of finding a way to kind of reimburse that tax amount before taxes are due in July. So in my mind, this is as close as we can get at this time to a compromise, and it's imperfect. I recognize that there are many people who are really unhappy and feel targeted by our decision, but it is public tax dollars. It is money that comes from all the residents in our community, and we do have to ensure that the decisions that we make with these funds are done in a way that reflects our priorities and also the policy that is currently in place and the one that we will refresh through this process. I think I had one other thing. Oh, and the other clarifying detail I just wanted to point out while we're in a public meeting is that many of the emails also included the assertion that we had removed the property tax exemption for Youth for Christ, but the only removal is the Aaron House. So I just wanted to also state that on record, that there's no confusion there, that it is just the one, and we do have a process to go back and remove it. So just wanted to have those comments on the record. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. Appreciate that. Councillor Cole Hamilton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I would echo the comments. This has been a challenging timeline, but I believe that we've done the best that can be done with it. And I wanted to echo what Councillor McCollum was saying, that tax exemptions for church buildings are governed by a separate section of the Local Government Act and are not in the least impacted by what we'll be doing tonight. It is that type of exemption is decided by the province, and it's not within the purview of local governments to make any changes. So there's no change whatsoever to any of the churches that were on that list. Aaron House chose to apply for a tax exemption as a community nonprofit rather than as a church, and so that places them in a different category. And I think the point about policy is a really important one, that it is best to have a strong policy background. And there's sort of two things I'd like to say about it. The commitment to equity is in our official community plan. It's in our strategic plan, and most recently in our statement of support of 2SL LGBTQ1A plus inclusion, safety, equity. And all of these statements, of course, align fundamentally with the BC Human Rights Act and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. But what we want to be doing, and what we tasked our staff to do many weeks ago, was to update our permissive tax exemption bylaw so that we have a clear set of standards by which to assess to whom we would give this particular benefit. It's not, there is no right to a permissive tax exemption. It is a benefit. And the resolution that was put forward last week attempted to delay this decision essentially until that policy review is complete. Policy review will be complete by June, and at that point, Aaron House's application will be reviewed in that light. So what's happened here is simply a delay in determining what Aaron House's eligibility for a permissive tax exemption, when that will be determined. Rather than being determined now, it will be determined in June. It'll be determined before any taxes are due, so there's no one's out of pocket at this point. So that's what's happening here. Is the impact is that it will be June before there's a final decision on this. But that's because we want to have clear policy in front of us, have the staff report that Councillor Frisch was speaking about, and we can make a complete decision. We don't have all of that in front of us now, which is why we are acting on what we do have and putting in place a process which will allow for a much more sort of fulsome consideration. So I think it's also important to know what's not happening here. Aaron House has the same rights of freedom of speech that it did a week ago. Nothing in our decision limits their ability to speak freely. The charter rights that existed then apply just as fully now. And Aaron House also has the same freedom of religion that it did a week ago. Nothing in our decision limited that freedom at all. And I think it's really important because a number of the messages we received seemed to indicate that there was a concern that that was the case, that somehow the ability to speak freely or to practice their religion was being curtailed. That's not something the city has the power to do, and it's not something that the city is doing. We're just simply saying that we would like to have our policy review complete, then have a chance to review the application in light of that completed policy. Anyway, I'll just leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Paul Hamilton. Councillor Frisch.
Thanks, Mayor. I could just catch that you were calling on me. And I don't, there you are. Yeah, nodding yes. So thanks again. I wanted to point out that while, you know, Aaron House does still have those rights and freedoms you mentioned, taking away their permissive tax exemption does put a burden on their ability to continue doing the support work they do in the community. And it is a fairly strong message when you economically penalize a not-for-profit organization. It's a strong message, and it would, I think they will definitely feel it in their pocketbooks. And I'm going to just reiterate that I think this is procedurally unfair. I want to clarify that we are definitely singling out this one organization. They happen to be a religious group, and we're singling them out. I believe what I'm hearing is that they're being basically accused of not supporting diversity, inclusion, and equity. And unfortunately, I'm just not seeing the solid evidence in front of me. I've seen emails from people saying they were at rallies where people belonging to this organization were. You know, the paper has written a story where people have talked about questioning the sexual orientation and gender identification policy at the BC level. And I've had some, I've seen some stuff posted on Facebook, and to be honest, it's not really that clear to me what's going on. And I think it takes a little more time than a few weeks to figure these things out. So I'm just gonna just leave it at that and vote against this. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Councillor Frisch. And Councillor Hillian.
Yeah, thanks once again, Mayor. Yeah, I want to add a couple more points before we conclude this. I think that we've landed our staff with a really challenging task here to write policy, but I'm sure they will come up with something that makes a lot of sense. I am concerned at some of the messages that we're getting from people who are in favor of what we've done, and in particular, we have one suggestion that we should write policy that is really tight, that is reviewed on a regular basis, and we should have the ability to claw back tax exemptions from organizations that somehow go astray of the policy. To me, that smacks of some type of surveillance that I really don't see our council or our staff getting involved in. I also worry that it creates an atmosphere where people who don't like a particular organization for any number of reasons start taking shots at it and calling upon us to review their tax exemption. And that's what I was referring to when I talked about the, you know, polarization and the politicization of this particular issue. You know, the challenge that we've put before us here is very significant. It's a major distraction from the work that we want to do. I know that we want to promote equity and harmony in the community, and in particular, I think we want to promote dialogue. so that people who do have differing points of view have the opportunity to come together and reconcile those perspectives to the extent possible. I'm still going to support the action because I think that what we've done here is we've actually created an opportunity for dialogue that wouldn't have come up otherwise. You know, although we've had, I've lost count of the number of messages that have come in at this point. The vast majority of them have come from people who I've never seen express an interest in local government issues before. And so if nothing else, what we've done is we've engaged a lot of people in considering the life of the community and how the decision-making process takes place in the community. And if that is to work towards a positive end, then I think that will come about through providing that opportunity for some dialogue around these issues. So that was the other point I wanted to make, and I'll leave it at that. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor Helena. Appreciate those comments, and from the rest of council. I don't see any further hands at this point.
Sorry, Mayor.
Oh, Councillor Frisch, I see you again.
Yeah, I'll quickly just make one more point, and my sense is that the real issue here is the BC government's policy for the school districts, and I actually believe that this debate belongs with the school district and with the province, and I see us wading into it as a misuse of our time. I mean, of course we want to support equity, but what's required to speak wisely on this subject is extensive, and we'd be asking our staff to come back with all sorts of stuff. And I'm not even sure what this policy is going to look like. You know, does it talk about more stuff than just the policy at the school district level? Are there other policies that the province has in other areas? I don't know, but yeah, I just wanted to point out that I think this is out of our wheelhouse, and to jump in with this heavy-handedness, I think is unwise. Thanks.
I don't see any further comments or questions at this point. Oh, Councillor Jolicoeur.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm wondering if staff can speak to, through the next few months as they review the policy, if there's going to be any considerations around supports, whether it's a one-pager or any kind of documentation that can be provided to organizations in the community to shepherd them down the right channel of which permissive tax exemption they should be applying for, as what's been shared by Councillor Cole Hamilton. Those that fall under the Church Act and those that are considered nonprofits in the community. I think that some of the considerations that we have around Aaron House Ministries could have been resolved if they were in fact under a different grouping. And so I'm just wondering if staff can speak to that in terms of any supports we can provide our nonprofits and our churches in the community to understand where they fit within the tax exemption work that we do at a municipal level.
Through Mayor Wells to council, thank you for the question. Council is providing direction in this regard, and as it currently stands, we don't provide. We offer the information related to requesting permissive tax exemptions, and I appreciate we're going to have a little bit more conversation with council on the scope of this work. The timeline is very short. The topic is, I think it's fairly well understood, but we'll have to have some more discussions in order to meet the prescribed deadline. And given the scope, given the timeline, staff will come back with some approaches to the development of this policy, so as to meet both council's expectations and some of the feedback that you've obviously been receiving. But at this point, the legislation provides that opportunity, and I don't think staff would be having too much in the way of conversations with permissive tax exemption applicants right at this point, while we're in the process of working on this this issue.
Thanks, Mr. Garbutt, for your answer there. Seeing no further questions and comments, my last comment would be really in the vein of what Councillor Hillian was saying, that hopefully we can utilize this as an opportunity to continue the dialogue and bring our community together. I don't think it was anybody's intention for this to be divisive, although it is, and polarizing, although it is. But I do hope that this is an opportunity to move forward. With that being said, all those in favor? And anybody opposed? And Councillor Frisch is opposed, and the motion passes.
Move adjournment.
All right, we are adjourned, and thank everybody for attending the meeting today.